Buffalo Bills 21, Miami Dolphins 14. Massive implications here. The Bills knew coming in because of the Jaguars loss. The Bills knew they were making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they didn't know if it was going to be the 2 seed or the 7 seed. And I'm not going to lie. For much of this game, the Bills looked like both the 2 seed and the 7 seed, the way they were playing. And it turns out the biggest play of the game ends up becoming Deontay Hardy, punt return. 96 yards. 96 yards. You're not even supposed to field punts inside the 5. Deontay Hardy, 96-yard punt return to tie the game early in the fourth quarter at 14. And then Buffalo with the game-winning touchdown, Josh Allen to Dawson Knox to go up 21-14. Tua throws an interception to end the game. Taylor Rapp with a diving pick. Fascinating back-and-forth game here between the Bills and the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been the Bills dug themselves such a deep hole earlier in the season that we've been focused so long on how they're not what they were supposed to be, that they've ended up where they were supposed to be. Okay, it took them until the very last game to make it happen, but if you sort of zoom out and say preseason expectations relative to now, they finished with 11 wins. They're the 2 seed. They won the division. Those are all things that were supposed to happen to start the year. And it's just that they started off where they were 5-5 or whatever. They dug themselves such a deep hole that you're like, they're way underachieving relative to expectations. So actually they've ended up basically right where they were supposed to be, albeit via this ridiculous circuitous route, which even in this game took some meandering before they finally got there.
They really did. I mean, the Bills, they moved the ball extremely well. This has been a story this entire season, and then the turnovers killed them. You had a miscommunication on the goal line, interception by Josh Allen. There was a 4th and 2 that he heaved in the end zone for an interception. I mean, the realest turnover that he had was Christian Wilkins sacking him and just taking the ball out of his hands, again, in the red zone.
Wilkins.
Unbelievable play by Christian Wilkins.
I think the actual force part of the fumble was just sort of routine. He went in for the tackle and his hand punched the ball out. I don't think that was necessarily a peanut punch. But realizing on the way to the ground that the ball was out and trappable by his other arm and just sort of snagging it and falling over was amazing.
Some of the things pro athletes can do in real time is actually unbelievable.
I mean,
that was a great
there's also the Trent Sherfield catch, which is another example of that, right? Ball, he's in the back of the end zone. The ball beans off Andrew Van Ginkel's head and starts looping over the back of him towards out of the back of the end zone. He's able to track it over his head and like stop his feet at the back of the end zone, lean over and snag a ball that's deflected off somebody's helmet and make a touchdown catch.
Ball's in the air forever.
Yeah, incredible reaction play by Trent Sherfield. They showed Mike McDaniel like reacting to that, just absolute disbelief. Like, how did he just do that?
There was some crazy plays in this game. So the fallout from this, Buffalo's going to get the 2 seed. They're going to host the Steelers. Miami was playing to try to have a rematch at home. Instead, they're going to fall to the 6 seed, and they're going to Kansas City. As I said an hour and a half ago, it's 10 degrees is the forecast on Saturday night. Lows below 0. So the narrative of the Florida team going to the super cold weather is going to be a fun one this week. The other narrative aspect of this, again, Miami's had an excellent season. They're going to finish 11-6, make the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. But can they beat the good teams, right? Can they win the important games? Beat Dallas a few weeks ago, but Baltimore waxes them last week, and then they lose at home to Buffalo, get swept by the Bills now during the regular season. Tyreek Hill made some big plays, but then on the biggest play of the game, which ended up the game-ending interception, Tyreek misses the play because he gets hurt. He got kind of thrown into coverage the previous play. Tyreek Hill misses multiple plays every single game with injuries. Jalen Waddle missed this game for the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert misses the game.
Pretty banged up, yeah.
And then Andrew Van Ginkel comes out.
They were down to their last 2 edge rushers that were on the roster, and they were the aging hulk of Melvin Ingram, who ends up in coverage one-on-one down the field against, was it Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid?
It's like him and Michael Hoyt maybe have the wrong listed weights. They switched listed weights.
And then Emmanuel
Nobody
Ogba.
understands what that means, but
Emmanuel Ogba was the other one. So those are their two edge rushers that they're left with for the rest of this game, and who knows how far beyond that.
The Dolphins lose. They lost Jalen Phillips a few weeks back
Bradley
to
Chubb.
the season. Bradley Chubb for the season in the blowout against the Ravens. And then Van Ginkel in this game.
Yeah.
3 really good edge defenders, 3 really good players. So that leaves Ogba and Ingram going up against the Chiefs next week. I don't even know who's going to be healthy. Christian Wilkins, in college, Christian Wilkins had to kick outside and play on the edge at Clemson when they had injuries. They really might have to do that in this game.
Christian Benford had a fantastic game, and he's on a run now of like the back half of the season. Christian Benford has been playing amazingly well for Buffalo at corner, which is pretty needy given the injuries they've had to the back seven. We should also talk a little bit about the end of this game because it was some fascinating situations. Buffalo get 4th and 1 from their own 35-yard line with a few minutes to go. Go for it. And it's one where the analytics says go, and it would be one of those ones where I think that's a good example of where the analytics says go, and the more conservative slanted people would look at that and go, I don't know, your own 35, you blow this, Miami's set up, they go for it, they get it, they chew another few minutes off the clock with that specific play. Allen has this monstrous 3rd and 13 run.
Unreal.
Where that wasn't called, right? He just decided quite early to bail on it. Right.
Scramble. Yeah.
Scrambles, beats 2 or 3 guys, launches himself at the first down marker after the contact, gets it. And that was after a delay of game penalty coming out of a timeout or something. So they put themselves in this really big hole, 3rd and 13, and Allen just goes, screw it, I'm doing it myself. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. I got this. Amazing Josh Allen play. And then they went for it again on 4th and 1. Didn't get it this time and gave Miami an opportunity, which they ended up squandering.
On the first 4th and 1 sneak, Allen he leaped over the line. And so he did it with the ball tucked instead of reaching,
right.
Which you reach at the goal line, the play is dead. You don't worry about fumble. And this one, he leaped, tucked it, kind of crowd surfed a little bit on the first one, got carried forward, and they made it. This one, he tried to go over the top again, but the Dolphins were ready for it.
The Bills were doing this sort of half-ass version of the push thing, right? Where there are guys lined up in push position, but they're not doing a good job of the pushing. Like, it should be fairly simple. I know, look, it can't be that comfortable to like insert your hands directly under the buttocks of the quarterback and heave, right? But ultimately, that's how you got to do this. And it's not like the NFL doesn't already have some questionable hand to hoop connections when it comes to, under center at the snap, etc. You just gotta accept your hand is going somewhere unpleasant and deal with it, right? Leonard Fournette needs to drive his power right up the hoop of Josh Allen and launch him over the line. Instead, I think it was on the failed one, right? Leonard Fournette's like running around the side somewhere while Allen is getting buried at the line and not getting there. The Eagles have this mastered. How does nobody else spend a little bit of time practicing, look, right up there? Peyton Manning was pointing this out on the Manning cast. Look, you got to get your hands right up in there.
Maybe Peyton for next Commanders coach, and they'll
Peyton was coaching his kids' team how to do the push play, only it was illegal at that level. So, Peyton knows.
That's messed up. The kids need to learn.
I mean, Peyton was trying to make that point to the kids' league, and they said, no, you can't do that. It's very much illegal at this level.
Stuff done. Game-ending interception was Tua throwing the ball to Chase Claypool, and Taylor Rapp broke on it. Tua's got those questions, right? Crunch time, must-pass situations.
It is. Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, Jalen. Some of my takeaways here. I think Tyreek Hill's fantastic. I think he's an absolute game changer. He's actually let down to a bunch these last couple weeks, right? He had that pass in the end zone against the Ravens that he didn't haul in. He had another one up the seam that he didn't catch in this one. It goes both ways. But I think my big takeaway is Jalen Waddle missed this game. And so when Jalen Waddle's out or Tyreek Hill's out, You're looking at River Craycraft and Durham Smythe. Like, those are the guys getting Cedric Wilson. Those are the other guys getting the targets. Braxton Berrios. Clearly, it's a much better team when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and it's two guys that you have to worry about speed-wise. And so I think they really need Waddle back for the playoffs.
I mean, they certainly need one of them on the field at any given moment. Like, yeah, look, there's debate as to how much of that was Tua's fault and how much of that was a bad route by Claypool. To be honest, I'm not sure you could pay me to throw a ball to Chase Claypool in a critical crunch situation late in the game. Sure. I just wouldn't trust him to be in the right place at the right time. And I think there's a good argument he wasn't in the right place at the right time and made this throw look a lot worse than it was. But you can definitely say, look, Waddle wasn't in the game or wasn't playing in the game. Tyreek Hill wasn't in the game at that point. Who should he have thrown it to? Like, it's not like he had an amazing array of options. Even on the
play, it was two-man, right, by the Bills. Everybody was locked up in man coverage.
Right.
And when you're down, I made this statement a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and people were like, you're an idiot, Steve. I said, throwing a game-ending interception isn't the worst thing in the world through the perspective of whether you lose the game on, like, fourth down failure or an interception doesn't really matter. A loss is a loss. So at that point in the game when you're down 7, you're going to have to make some tight window throws. You're going to have to take some chances. And whether the game ends on an interception or an incompletion is really irrelevant. Again, I thought it was more maybe just a great play by Rapp than anything. He broke on that thing immediately, did an awesome job playing off the leverage of the corner, knowing the scheme, knowing where Tua was going. So either way, I mean, there's still questions about the Dolphins beating good teams, beating them in crunch time. I know they did it against Dallas, but against these top AFC teams, they have not had a great season and now have to go to Kansas City on Saturday night.
Yeah, not a fun place to go even with the Chiefs struggling the way they have been.